Hi guys, I'm Dr. Tara Tobias. I want to welcome you all back to my channel. In today's home exercise tutorial, we are going to be going over foot drop. I know I've talked a lot about spasticity, especially in that series where I started it out kind of differentiating spasticity from foot drop, and then kind of went into a series of videos of how to manage or how to improve your walking and your standing if you have spasticity in the lower extremity. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about foot drop. So I have gotten some comments from that series asking what the best exercises are for either a mild spasticity, which I will define so that we're all using the same terminology and you guys will know whether or not these exercises are right for you, and some comments asking for treatment for foot drop. So first, let's make sure that we are all talking about the same thing. For those of you that are asking me for information about foot drop, I highly recommend that you go back and watch the video, and I'll put a link for that right here where I differentiate spasticity from foot drop. There's a lot of misinformation or misuse of the term foot drop, meaning that a lot of people think that they have foot drop when really their primary problem in their ankle or the bigger issue is spasticity, and they are managed differently. The bracing is going to be different, and to make sure you don't get frustrated with the exercises you're doing, it's good to know if you really do have a foot drop or if you have spasticity. Again, that'll be in the video titled "It's spasticity, it's not foot drop." So now, what is a true foot drop? You know for sure that you do not have spasticity in your gastrocnemius, your soleus, and your posterior tibialis, which I talk about in that video. Those are the muscles that are usually involved when you have spasticity in the lower extremity or in the ankle, and they make the foot point down involuntarily. So when you're sleeping or when you go to stand up or anytime you feel like the foot is strongly pointing down involuntarily, and if you tried to bring it up using your hands or someone else tried to bring the foot back up, it would be extremely hard. That is spasticity. Now, foot drop, on the other hand, is truly when the muscles that lift the foot up are not working. So there's some kind of a disconnect, and that is a broad term foot drop. It can be due to a peripheral nerve injury. It can be due to a fracture, but it can also be due to damage to the brain or the spinal cord, which is where a lot of my videos are focused. But it truly means just that you do not have control over the muscles that lift the foot up. So some have commented for me to show a video of what this looks like. I don't have any videos that I can show of any patients that have a true foot drop, because most of my patients that I have video of do have spasticity or high tone, but it really looks like a floppy foot. That is the best way to describe it, is that it just flops around. When you go to swing your leg through, it just kind of flops, or you swing your leg out to the side and it looks like it's just kind of dangling there as you bring that leg forward. That would be a true foot drop. Foot with spasticity or an ankle with spasticity looks a lot stiffer, a lot more rigid. It usually looks like it's stuck in certain positions, and it usually a lot of times will also turn on its side, or it'll turn inward. Those would be signs of like a severe spasticity. So then there's that in-between group, and I've gotten some comments about this, is my doctor says I have spasticity. I can walk, I can lift my foot up a little bit, but it does interfere with my walking. That's what we would call like a mild spasticity. And what I view that as, and this is important so that we're all on the same page as far as what exercises are most appropriate for you. A mild spasticity in the gastrocnemius, the soleus, and the posterior tibialis, so the muscles that point the foot down, are that your foot, you can lift the foot up a little bit, you can stand on it okay, it doesn't roll to the outside, so you're not rolling to the outside, but it usually looks like a little hitch in your walking, like a little hitch, because it catches right when you go to bring the foot through. So right when you go to pick the foot up to lift it off the ground, the foot does this, points a little bit. That's a mild spasticity. So the muscles that point the foot down, the gastroc, the soleus, and the posterior tibialis, and it'll point down just a little bit, so that when you go to pick the foot up, there's this little pause or this little catch before your foot will actually come up off the ground. And that's because the foot is staying pointed when it needs to start to flex in order for you to pick the foot up to bring it through. And then you might get a little bit of hip hiking, so lifting that hip up or swinging that leg out to the side, just because of that delay. That little bit of pointing it's delaying you being able to pick that foot up to clear the ground. So you might just swing it out to the side a little bit. That would be a mild spasticity. And I would say that these exercises that I'm going to go over today would probably work well for you if you're in that category of mild spasticity. So now on to what we're going to do today. These are exercises for foot drop, a true foot drop, and a mild spasticity, as I just described. So if that sounds like that describes you, then this video is definitely for you. And now let's get to the good stuff, some of the exercises. So let's head on over to the gym. I'll kind of walk you through some of the exercises that I think are valuable to help improve your walking. So there's a few things to keep in mind. So when you can't pick your foot up, the most logical thing is work on exercises that lift the foot. But there are positions that are more ideal for relearning how to lift that foot up if you have weakness or the inability to activate the muscles to lift the foot up. I've talked about this before. There are certain patterns that work well together. One of those patterns of movement is when the knee is flexed and the hip is flexed. It'll be easier to bring the foot up. There's two reasons for that. One is that the muscles that point the foot down are on slack, so you're not getting any resistance from that. But the other reason is this pattern. They work well together. So this first exercise I'm showing you is just working on lifting the foot up. Laying down is a great position, because if you have some mild spasticity, your body might be more relaxed, and that spasticity that points the foot down will be less likely to occur. What you're going to do is you're going to start with the knee really flexed up, the hip really flexed up, and work on trying to lift the foot in this position. Again, because the knee and the hip are flexed, there is a higher likelihood or higher chance of being successful in lifting the foot. Once you get good at that, you can straighten the leg out a little bit and try it in this position. And then you're going to just keep straightening it out. Now, the more you straighten it out, the harder it's going to get, because you're working out of that pattern. And there might even be a higher chance of the foot actually fighting against you and pointing down. And that is because if you do have any spasticity at all, even if it's mild, there is a chance that you're going to go into that other pattern. And that other pattern is everything extends. So when the hip extends and the knee extends, the foot's going to want to point. Just be aware of that and work the leg out slow, and really try and isolate lifting that foot up at each step of straightening that leg out. Then once you get it to a certain point, it's going to be a little bit harder to keep that knee flexed. So you could just put a little roll or something under your knee just to make sure that it's totally relaxed, but yet there's still a little bit of bend in the knee to make it easier to lift that foot up. The hardest position to lift the foot up is going to be having the knee locked out. And again, you're going into that extensor pattern in this position, but also the gastroc, or the muscles that point the foot down, they are the tightest when the knee is straight. So it's harder to lift the foot up when you have all those muscles that point the foot down lengthened. One other way that you can work the ankle dorsiflexion, so lifting the foot up, and still keep that knee and that hip flex, you could definitely do this in sitting, just working on lifting the foot up with the knee and the hip flexed. So before we move on, I want to explain something to you about the muscles that lift the foot up. So they're attached to the leg, and they're also attached to the foot. When you shorten that muscle, there's two things that happen. If you shorten that muscle, the foot can come up, but also the leg can come closer to the foot. So it's basically just closing the angle between the foot and the leg. Now that's important to remember because there's two ways that you can work on regaining strength in the muscles that lift the foot because of the way that they are attached to the foot and the leg bone. So instead of working on lifting the foot up, you can also work on bringing the leg bone closer to the leg. And that also is going to work that muscle. And sometimes it's a little bit of an easier way to start working that muscle. So that's what this next exercise is going to show, is that you can put your foot on a sheet and literally just pull your foot back. The sheet or pillowcase just decreases friction to make it a little bit easier. Now what's happening here? We're working in that flexor pattern. The foot is more likely to dorsiflex or lift up. In the floor is actually what's helping to close off that angle. So it's kind of an active assist. So we also call this a closed chain activity because your foot is on the ground. Those ones laying down are open chain, and those might be a little bit harder. Using the ground or doing closed chain activities to initially learn how to activate those muscles that lift the foot up might be a better starting point for you. So sticking with these closed chain activities and using the ground to almost help in closing that angle. So I'm going to refer to this as like closing that angle, dorsiflexion, where you're lifting the foot, because there's really those two things are going on. The leg bone is coming closer to the foot and the foot bone is coming up closer to the leg. So if you set your foot up on a higher stool, you can actually use the ground again to help engage those muscles that bring the foot and the leg closer together. And so with the foot up on the stool, so the knee is flexed a little bit more, which, as I had stated before, is gonna help in this movement. And then you're basically just gonna scoot forward and then just go back to the starting position. Scoot forward and then go back to the starting position. Again, you're kind of teaching that brain what that feels like to bring those two bones together. And those muscles may engage a little bit in this position because you have to bring that leg bone forward. And when you do that, that muscle, there's an opportunity where that muscle might engage to help you bring that leg bone forward as you scoot forward. And then you can remove the stool and just put the foot on the ground. Now the hip and the knee are a little bit more extended, but just another variation in the positioning to continue to work on bringing that leg bone closer to the foot. And then if you really wanted to challenge yourself, you could put your other foot up on a stool or a step, and what that's going to do is that's going to force even more weight onto the leg that you're working. And it might, again, it's just another position where you can try this, and there is some opportunity there for those muscles to engage when you're in this position. And that is it. That is all we're gonna do for today. This is actually the first video in a two-part series. I decided to break it up into 2 parts because it's just a lot of information. So look forward to the next video where I'm gonna go over how you progress this into standing and actually taking a step. And then also I'm gonna go over how you can use e-stem and different technologies that are out there that are really cool, that can assist you in lifting your foot up when you're walking. I'm also going to go over some bracing suggestions that I have if you have foot drop. So definitely look forward to that video. That video will be posted on Sunday. I have gotten some comments that people like the little motivation. Some people have sent me emails that they like the little motivational quotes and things that I do at the end. I'm going to put a link below of how you can sign up for my newsletter. I usually put some suggestions or recommendations or tips on how to stay motivated when you're dealing with any type of neurologic condition. And also usually put a few exercise tips in there that don't make it to YouTube. So definitely valuable information in that. So that link will be below. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click that notification bell, comment below if you are someone that has foot drop after watching this, you fit this category. I don't do a lot of videos on it because I assume there's more people that have spasticity than that have a true foot drop. But if this is you and this describes you, go ahead and put hashtag foot drop in the comments below, and that'll just help me to know that there's a lot of you that do like this information or that you find that this information is valuable, and I'll do more videos. If you liked this series and this progression and how I go from exercising and carrying it over into function and then adding a little bit of treatment, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Again, I thank you all for watching. Be patient with yourselves. Have fun with this exercise. If you're 1% better today than you were yesterday, then you are on the right track. So keep it up. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Have a great day.